It's just a staple of life. Good morning, everybody. Well, that one's on yet. There we go. Hello, hello. Welcome to the tomato webinar, or should I say Kanban or Kanban webinar? You're going to use both interchangeably. It's quite a thing. Very, very excited. If you are jumping in, you can let us know where you're tuning in from. I think I know where the first attendees tuning in from. We're a little early, so thanks for being on time and prompt. Stuart, are you up? I'm assuming this is my former boss, Stuart. No, maybe not. No. Oh, it is. Hey, there you go. How's it going? I cannot complain, sir. Just on here doing a webinar that you can pronounce the word both in two ways, which is one of my favorite things to do. Wes, are you going to say Kanban or Kanban? What do you think?
I'll say either.
Neither. What do you say?
I say Kanban because my
Okay.
wife is a supply chain
Ah,
background.
so it's just kind of ingrained in your head.
She is very adamant that it's Kanban, and I'm like,
It's really
I say
whatever you want to say. And Aaron, what are you going to say?
Oh God, I'm a Kanban, but I'm like,
Thank
must
That's
be the
okay.
Canadian side of me.
Yeah. The only thing that you have the little, it's very slight, but very Canadian.
True
Wes, when
pronunciation.
Aaron says the word, Aaron, say hilarious for us.
So do I say hilarious fun? Like funny? I get
No,
see
you make
I
it,
get
you make the I really long.
hilarious.
It's
I've been told that
hilarious.
I say pants, very American. And I was like, so
Hans?
say pants.
Uh,
And that
uh,
that is something people make fun of me of all the time. I'm like,
oh no, well, that's
I was
not
like, oh,
fun.
I need a new pair of pants. And they're like, what?
How do the Canadians say that?
I
Everybody
don't
tuning in,
know. I'm trying to figure that part out.
got it. We're addressing the elephant in the room early, which is Kanban versus Kanban. Wes is a purist. Aaron and I'll probably do both. It just depends on what comes out of my brain at that point. I'm trying to train myself to say Kanban, but I also started saying Kanban. I don't know. So I taught high school in the beginning, guys. So that was my first career. And if I looked at you within the first week and called you the wrong name, I like my brain could not get it right the first time. And I would know I was doing it as it came. Like I would be calling someone and be like, "Hey," and like Wes, I'd be calling you like Steve because the first 2 weeks of school I called you Steve, and I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry, Wes. Like, but then I was like, my brain is programmed, so it's what it is right now. Anyway, so Kanban or Kanban, if you if you are a purist and you say Kanban, throw a number one in the chat right now for us. We want to know the purists. Who's a purist here and says Kanban. And then if you say Kanban, like us good old everybody else, let me know. All right, Matt, we got a Kanban. Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Uh, Wes is a purist. I'm kind of a hybrid. Erin is a gringuita. She's a little gringo for us. Appreciate you being Canadian and American all at the same time. Come on, everybody else. I got one vote. Everybody else is in the chat. Is it Kanban? Throw a one in the chat. If it's Kanban, throw a two. Hybrid.
Hybrid,
Thank you,
I like
Tammy.
it. Got it
Stuart,
too.
I appreciate Stuart. I appreciate you being Scottish. Jen, how are you, girl? I appreciate you being a purist too. Good to see you, Jen. Thanks for jumping on. All right, we need a few more votes. Cynthia, there we go. I appreciate you. What's up, LA? Thank you for tuning in very early. Two is way more fun to say. I could appreciate that too. Yeah, I'm with it. Kanban, Kanban, like I feel like the pronunciation is hard for us to say if English is your first language, right? Like Wes, does it come out naturally, or did your wife have to give you like the third degree to get you to say that correctly?
well, I heard it from her first,
Okay,
Kanban,
so your brain like
because
associated.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like with your as a teacher. Yep.
Yeah, I was when you guys were jumping on, I was telling everybody that if I called you like by accident, if I called someone the wrong name when I was teaching high school in the first week or so, maybe that would be their name for the rest of the year. So it was hard for me to break it after the first time I learned it. Mark Hummel, you have not voted. I know you're on here. Appreciate a vote, Mark. Who else? Harjot, you can vote too. Harjot is
Put
very
it into
English.
2. I've got Harjot's.
Harjot, that's not scrolling
The
anymore. Oh,
true
there we go.
Q&A.
Okay. Oh, there's a Q&A. No, Harjot, you got to put it in the chat. This is the chat.
He corrected.
There we go. There we go. 2 for sure. I appreciate that. Mark, a good old Orlando boy. Appreciate you throwing in the Kanban.
We're gonna go Kanban.
Yeah, we'll get started. We'll get started in a minute, guys. Don't worry. And this will be about 45 minutes, so don't you worry. Super excited everybody's on. I mean, I'm a very visual learner, so this in a visual process is fantastic. The recruiting workflow, the sales pipeline and opportunity workflow. Wes is a super user and also a super enthusiastic user. So excited to have him on to give some first person insight. We also are going to jump in and do a demo for y'all very quickly, like under 10 minutes. Quick walkthrough so you guys can see it. Because again, this is a visual tool. And if we didn't actually show it to you, that would be like owning a staffing company and having a website without people on it. Because who do we work with all day? People. Still confused. So if you go to your website and there's no people on your staffing company's website, I'm not sure what's going on there. That's just my opinion. Aaron, do you have an opinion about that? Come on, you can have an opinion. No one's going to judge you.
No, all you. I'll let you guys keep on
You agree?
your opinion.
See, look at this, Wes. She doesn't want to have an opinion. Wes, does the ITAC website have people on it? I think it does, if I remember correctly.
Well, we just went through a new launch. I'm not sad to say.
I think the team was on there originally. I know.
Yeah,
like
we've got the stock photos.
there you go. See, that's all you need. You don't really need anything fancy.
The employees are like, why can't they take pictures of us? And it's, who's gonna do that? Who's gonna edit those? And
that's not that hard. There's a thing called Canva that we're using right now. I'm like the least creative person, but I make the cover images for the podcast every week. It's all canned for me, thankfully. All right, let's get started here.
Stella, you have a raised hand.
Hi, Stella. We're going though, by the way, Stella. So what do we got? Maybe we're kicking off right now, if that was the question. All right. So welcome everybody. I'm gonna share my screen. We'll get kicked off. We don't have many slides. We do have a demo. Don't you worry. I try not to bore you to death. This is actually very exciting. Can I get a nod that you guys are seeing the right screen, Aaron or Wes? Wes, you can come off mute if you want, by the way, buddy. You're the star here. I'm the play-by-play. You're the color. Aaron's just here for backup. Nice. All right. Welcome everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Rob Mann. I'm the VP of Sales at Newbury Partners. I am your host for this shindig. With me, I will do introductions in a second, but let's just jump in. Everyone's here for a Kanban demo or Kanban. That's what we were talking about in the beginning. I really love that we found this sticker or created that sticker in that overview slide. So real quick, what we'll do is we'll say hello to everybody after this. This is the agenda. I love when we put that on there. We're going to go through a real case study about why ITAC Solutions move forward with the Kanban solution from Newbury for Bullhorn. I think Wes has a really interesting story that should sound very familiar to a lot of people. We have the incredible, the incomparable Tammy Ross on with us. She's off video right now, but she'll say hello when we get to the demo. And then we'll open up for Q&A. This is more of a conversation. So if you have questions, feel free to jump in and we'll get to them immediately, or if it's going to be something we're going to cover, we'll let you know that it's something that we'll cover as we move forward. But with that said, some housekeeping for everybody. 1, this is recorded. You'll be able to find it. We will send it out. 2, if you have actual questions, Q&A, there's a Q&A section. If not, if you have a comment, concern, preference on how you pronounce Kanban or Kanban, throw it in the chat. That's what that's for. And then I will now, and that's about all the housekeeping. Let's get to the panel. So that smiling gentleman on the top is Wes Jones. He runs the IT division over at ITAC Solutions. Wes, how you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Now, Wes, how long have you been at ITAC now?
9 years and about 2 weeks.
9 years and 2 weeks. And Wes shared yesterday that he found staffing because he was using a recruitment company to find a job when he was moving back to Alabama, and then ended up working for the recruitment company. So I think most people can appreciate that. Wes, I found staffing because I found one of my friends that I go to the gym with at a Starbucks, asked her what she was doing. She explained locum tenens staffing to me. And I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And 2 weeks later, I was working at a locums company from being a high school teacher. So not the exact story, but very similar, right?
We all have a similar story.
Yeah. And then always we have the this is not really her title, but it's my title for her, the chief of staff of Newbury Partners. Basically, if something needs to get done and done well and quickly, Erin McKenzie will knock it out of the park above expectations. How are you, Erin?
I'm excellent. What a great little introduction. I'm going to make Rob do all my intros. So nice to see everyone here. I will just be kind of tracking all of the chat. So if anyone has any questions, you guys feel free to pop them in there. I'll make sure they get answered and that the panelists here are responding to each of them.
And then the top right corner up there, Tammy Ross with the impeccable hair in that headshot will come on and show you the demo for Kanban in a second here. Well, number one, she might be more enthusiastic than anybody about Kanban. So get ready. We know you guys will be excited about it. So if you're not familiar with Kanban, we'll just jump into the actual. So we're on Q&A, so no more sharing. If you're not familiar with Kanban, it is basically a visual way to show your opportunity pipeline. So if you're in sales and you're selling software, you have the company name, and if you're just selling one thing, you could just have the company name. If you're like Newbury Partners and you have a million offerings, then you have to put the company name and what we're selling. Obviously, you can share the amount and then some details about the deal. We'll show you what that looks like opportunity-wise for a staffing company inside of Bullhorn shortly here. And then the one thing that we also wanted to do is, by the way, I started using Bullhorn in 2012, and I was doing locums, so there wasn't a lot of candidates against jobs in terms of submission or interviewing. It was very maybe 4 or 5, unless we were filling an entire hospital schedule for ER physicians. But for the most part, pretty easy to manage in a visual, like a list workflow. But you can imagine if you are doing a higher volume, or if you have IT and you have a lot of web responses that are coming into Bullhorn, that the list could get a little cluttered, hard to track. And therefore, one of the things that we created for the recruiting workflow in Bullhorn is that same idea of little cards. So you can visualize what stage they are in the submission process and then move them on. And if that did not help you because you were 100% visual learner, we're going to get there. But with all that said, I wanted to ask Wes some questions, kind of learn about what he was trying to solve. And then Wes will also help Tammy as we go into the demo to kind of highlight some of the best practices and such that he has uncovered. So Wes, I think we wanted to start at the beginning, right? You had a problem you needed to solve, and Kanban, or see, I did it again, Wes. I used both interchangeably. Kanban or Kanban ended up being the solution. So how did we get there?
Yeah, so you have to paint a picture for the visual learners. We are a family-owned staffing firm out of Birmingham, Alabama. We've got about 35 people in production, and I kind of would like to take you pre-COVID for a second and paint a picture of, we were tracking orders through Bullhorn, but from a visual standpoint, we were looking at a dry erase board, a big dry erase board with small tiles with magnets on them, and we were just moving the tiles through the cycle.
Hey Wes, wait, let's pause there. Let's pause there and let everyone who is doing a whiteboard stand up with tiles, throw it in the chat. Give us a thumbs up or a yes if you're still working that workflow in the chat, everybody. I'm curious mostly. Oh, don't be shy. Let's go. Who's still doing whiteboard stand-ups? Or if you're not, I guess you could say, if you ever did them. Because I did it, which was confusing, but okay, we're getting a lot of shy. Not now, wish we were. Okay, Matt, that's interesting. I would love to learn more. Anybody else? Matt, thanks for being a good participant and not making this a soliloquy. All right. Anyway, everyone's being shy, Wes. So we give him a second. Let's jump in. So keep going. Sorry about that.
Okay. So no. When COVID hit, right, 2020, mid-March, we were like, what do we do? We had heard about this thing called Trello. There's Asana, there's other, plug in your platform. We essentially were sending everyone home. Everyone was scared. And we said, what are we going to do? We're going to have to move to Teams. And we essentially, one of the last things I did before we packed it up and went home for 8 months is we moved our whiteboard to Trello and figured it out and tracked order numbers through the cards and did all the things. We stuck to Trello for the better part of 3 to 4, almost 4 years. If you're familiar with Trello, they just changed their offering to where you couldn't collaborate on the boards as much. And we had 17 people in the IT vertical. So we said, what are we going to do? It was just crazy, the timing. My boss, Charles, met someone at a conference that was at Newbury, just mentioned Kanban, and we just jumped on it because we had to have a visual web-based solution, because we all love Bullhorn, but at the same time, it's not known for its visual elements and tracking orders and knowing where you're at on the field. And so
Yeah,
that's what happened. But essentially, the challenge was you had Trello, but you also had sales using Excel, and you had sales using whatever method they were using to track their orders, and we were all using different methods and documenting twice, once in Bullhorn and once in your platform.
yeah. So I think that is, kind of, I have to imagine, and maybe we could ask the audience, maybe they'll be less shy about this one. Is anyone using like a Trello or a Monday Asana board for managing their stand-ups or to do exactly what Wes was describing during the pandemic? Did anyone move to one of those solutions to help manage at least the morning stand-up? You give me a yes or a thumbs up again. I'm gonna stop asking eventually if no one wants to respond. Oh, you guys are breaking my hearts today. All right, here we go. I'll just keep engaging you and pretending like you're answering. So I'm gonna assume that you guys were using Asana. Okay, thank you, Cynthia. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The person who's probably been awake the least amount of time is the most awake in the chat. We appreciate that. Okay, that's help from Matt. Thank you. Not for art. Okay, so you're using it for training. Again, Matt, more questions that I have for you at this point, but we'll get there. So you're using this one system that doesn't integrate with your ATS or your CRM. And Wes just said it. You have this duplicate entry. Hopefully you have the duplicate entry. You might just be doing it on the Trello board and then entering it into Bullhorn when it's placed, right? Which I don't think you mentioned that to me, but I have, even if there's 1 or 2 scenarios where that occurs, I would say that if you have members of your team that are entering data only at the time of placement into Bullhorn or your system of record, you are going to essentially start to face a reporting issue in that we're in a war for speed, right? So this is a speed game now. It's always kind of been, but if you keep working jobs that don't give you feedback, that don't move candidates through the workflow, if you can't see if your recruiters are any good at moving people through a timely manner through the workflow, and then either training them up or training them out, right? Like you're at a disadvantage. So you really like AI and automation and reporting should be breaking you of allowing that to happen in your business. Like that is they need to be entering it into the system of record for reporting purposes to understand where the gaps are, right? Like if I have a salesperson who has trouble moving stuff through a deal through a cycle to get it to close or close loss, which is fine too. I need to know that. So
I think that was you're all over it. As managers that were managing recruiters, you were blind in some areas of like, I don't know what needs attention. I don't know who needs attention, what client, whether it's staffing or you're selling a widget like this. I
yeah,
think it would work either way, because it really just pulls it out. And if you're tracking it all in one place, it just screams
Your
at
brain.
you what needs attention.
Yeah, 100%. And so, um, so you guys, so you guys you had a good practice, right? You had a good remote practice. The Trello board was fine. You realized, hey, we probably should have this in Bullhorn. Probably ran into Chris at Staffing World because I remember Charles
That's it,
and
yeah.
I being at the bar together, and I actually introduced him to Chris. Um, so that was probably what happened, or something similar. And then we start using Kanban in the business. So we're using it. Are you guys you're using it for both the recruiting workflow and opportunities?
Correct. Yeah. So probably more from the recruiting workflow. Our business right now, the opportunities are there. We're using them. So essentially, we found Kanban, or I did it, Kanban, and the other part of the challenge was just the well, we kind of talked about it, but the data accuracy, and I can't say enough about that. So you log it, you document it once, and it's there. But we moved forward with the tool. I started working with Tammy, and we did have to. It's very intuitive, so the implementation process was very smooth, and we've been using it now for about 6 to 7 weeks.
Awesome. And you've seen and how have you seen adoption? And I think you already mentioned data quality is improved. How are you seeing adoption for everybody?
Yeah, so we've been using just Microsoft Forms to ping people through a survey, um, and getting that instant feedback from the users. Typically what happens is the survey goes out, hey, what do you want to see? What challenges are you having? And then the great thing about Newbury and Tammy is you also get a client success manager with the product, and we talk back and forth like, hey, can we do this? Hey, let me understand. Can I understand what happens here? And so my theory is that if a user's having a problem or just a question about something, like let's tackle that as soon as we can so that the adoption continues. Early adopters, they're going to drive it, and then we're really kind of the audience is the late adopters.
Yeah. No, and I think if you're, well, I don't want to, like the recruit. So Bullhorn's recruiting workflow it works, right? Like the list view. Um, but I do think that you have to. There is a gap, right, of people entering data, and if it's very like in your face, um, it'll make it a little bit easier. And what are so maybe like real quick, probably to highlight this, what are the use cases that you're using it for on a daily basis? Like, quick, like overview in the business. Where are you guys using it?
Sure. So number one, it's recruiters tracking orders. Where like if a recruiter owns 6 or 7 jobs, like you can quickly build a board to filter those jobs, and that recruiter visually sees where they're at. If they have any candidates they have on the board, they save time by just literally clicking and dragging that candidate across through the workflow, rather than I think I counted the clicks one time. I was like, you saved like 12 clicks, rather than
I don't
going
think you
through.
shared that with me. I probably would have used that already. I know it's like minutia, but like the people on this call are leaders, right? So like if they're, we're also used to using this bad boy, where if we have to click 3 or 4 times in an app. I think I ordered breakfast at a diner via, like, I went to Google Maps, found the diner, and ordered what I wanted in under 12 clicks. So
Right.
yeah.
So if nothing else, the time saved was tremendous. Like when we were doing the implementation, like Tammy saw, like all the recruiters were doing the reaction emojis when we got to like, this is how you do this. Instead of going through Bullhorn and clicking here and clicking there, you really just drag it over. And I think that was the light bulb going off of the shortcut, essentially.
Yeah.
So that's a use case. Another use case would be just, from a sales perspective, if a salesperson is going through their list and needing to touch all of their contacts that are active with Kanban. If you've got your ribbons set up correctly, you can just click the name and the number just shows up instead of clicking through the company and the contact and the, the record. You can have
Or
that.
having to remember the job record number.
You can just have it displayed. Yeah, it's just right there. From an opportunities perspective, like you can see if you're entering leads, and then depending on your workflow, if those are turning into opportunities, you can see we've had meetings about, hey, look, we've got this huge opportunity that was Kanban pretty much was like a magnifying glass for this opportunity, and it created some great discussion around what do we need to do to get that moving forward.
So visibility on the opportunity side, clear visibility for the recruiters. Obviously, just making it very like I think truthfully, if you were savvy enough, you could set up a list in the submission workflow and see how many candidates are against the job, but you necessarily can't see what status they're always in. But I have to say, Wes, that most people don't know how to create a saved list or a favorited list in Bullhorn on the list view. That's the number one thing. I think I teach people, I demo all the time how to do that because I just feel like it was so vital for my business. So like we had favorite job list, we had favorite, this doctor was licensed in this state with this certification, like just so we could have an easy call through, and then we deliver that to new recruiters, which helped them figure out what to do a little bit faster. And I think this just really delivers that idea, but right in their face. So
one thing I'll say about that I really drove home because it was a concern for me is, let's say that you didn't, and I know I don't want to steal Tammy's thunder, but let's just, for example, though, if you're thinking about this, if you don't want to be in Kanban view, just click out of it. Like you're still in Bullhorn, and like it's not like you have to be in Kanban the whole time. Like it's literally just over in we call it the bowling alley. I think that's general term for that.
That is the correct term for what that is on the left.
Just click out of it. If you want to get to a list view over in submissions or leads.
Yeah. Well, you say the key thing. You're not swivel chairing apps. You're not having your recruiters, right? Your recruiters should really live in two places. They probably live in three. Your inbox, the ATS, which in this case Bullhorn, and then I'm not happy about saying it, but LinkedIn or whatever job board of du jour that they're working with. They're usually LinkedIn. But yeah, like if you can keep them in Bullhorn for 90% of what they're doing, or their inbox, you're in good shape. So anyway, All right. And then are you using it for one-on-ones and for stand-ups? You're still using it for stand-ups. Are you using it for one-on-ones?
So not necessarily one-on-ones yet, but I will say on the stand-up thing, so we found it very beneficial to share the board. Now it would depend on how you went through your stand-up, like whatever your agenda was. We go sales rep by sales rep, and they go over their jobs. So the leader, the lady who's running those boards, I just got her to set up custom boards for her, so she can just click on a board when that sales rep's talking, so you can visually see where their orders are. And if we need to camp out on an order for a second, she'll pin it, and we'll just talk about some of the candidates in there. And it's awesome.
Awesome. All right. I'm gonna stop, or we can stop yapping. And then as we're going through this, Tammy will jump on now. Tammy, if you want to jump on and start sharing your screen. How are you? Everybody say hello to Miss Tammy.
Everyone, glad to be here. Welcome.
And then Tammy's gonna walk. Oh yeah, you want to say hello?
No, it's okay.
Sorry. I was gonna say, as we go through this, Wes, feel free to share best practices and add some color as Tammy's walking through the recruiting board first, and then the opportunity board second. So Tammy, it's your show with Wes. I will do something really difficult and mute myself.
All right. Well, as Rob mentioned, I am super enthusiastic about the Kanban or Kanban. I love this tool. I think it's life-changing for recruiters coming from, I was a recruiter in a former life. So I know how valuable this tool is, and I know that it's just a great also leadership tool. So this is the actual recruiter board that you're looking at right now. You can see across the top, we have all of the different workflow breadcrumbs. Basically, these will mimic your workflow, your candidate workflow. So we can configure what columns you see here. We can see your web responses, but we have some clients who don't want to see web responses because they can have hundreds and hundreds of web responses in a job, and it's just too much that, when you expand it, it's too much. So you can decide. And then, of course, we configure which submission buckets and which submission statuses within those buckets you want to see. So underneath these workflow icons, you can see that we have these, what we call job ribbons. So each one of these ribbons that you see is representing a certain job within the system. And we can also, you can see that next to the name of the job, you can see a number in parentheses, which tells us how many people are actually in the pipeline in any status within this workflow. So we can also collapse this if you want to just see the list of jobs here. And as you can see, we have color coding. We can change the colors of the jobs, and then we can actually use the color coding to sort and filter. And of course, that is based on your preference.
Yeah, Wes, are you using color coding on the job ribbons, or you're not muted? Go ahead.
So that was a game changer when the color codes come out. So yeah, absolutely. Like the first thing we did, I think the day that this came out, is we color coded based on skill sets. So like blue was data, red was developers, and because the recruiter's on the phone and they're on the phone with a developer, it just makes it so much easier to pitch the jobs.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you. Also, within the job ribbon, you can see that we can configure what information you see in the job ribbon. So any field that is on your job entity can be displayed here in the job ribbon. And we also have a functionality where we can set it if you want to be able to edit your job record right from the Kanban screen. So if you needed to come in and change the start date for a job, you can come in and just do that right from here. And you do not need to click into the actual job. It will automatically change it right here. We can also turn this off. So if you do not want recruiters or anyone changing things from the job, we can turn that off as well. Also on the job, we can look in the binocular view and we can see the job description. We can see notes. We can see details. We can also submit right from this board. So I can come in and go ahead and just do a submission. Like Wes was saying, saving clicks, having to go back and forth to different list views or candidate records. So you can just go ahead and submit right here from the board. And you'll see.
Hey, Tammy, real quick. So guys, just so you know, Tammy can't see it on her end, but something with Zoom recently, when those toast windows pop up, it flickers. It has nothing to do with the tool itself. It's something to do with Zoom. We've been experiencing that for like the last week or so. Remember I was telling you, Tammy, that it's flashing? That is, you can't see it, right? The app's working fine. It's just anyway,
yeah, the app's working fine. I don't see it flickering. So yeah, once we have the person submitted, we can also do a couple of things here. We can click into the binocular of the candidate card, and we can here see details. We can see notes. We can see the submission history. And also, if we expand the actual job, we can then see the candidate card. And this is something that Wes was talking about, and we were talking about earlier about candidates or jobs that need attention. So within the Kanban board, we can configure penalty flag days, meaning how many days is too many for a candidate to be in any of these statuses. So for instance, if I've submitted a Nora and my penalty flag is, 10 days, no one should be submitted for more than 10 days. This little clock here will turn red. And I can show you that. There's probably some in here that have red. Let's see if we can find, here we go. So you see Siobhan Roy is in the penalty flag. And if you hover over it, it will tell you how many days are here. So this is a great visual tool also. While you're looking, you can easily see, who's been in statuses longer than they should be, so you can give them attention.
Wes, are you using that, or is that?
I was just about to say, so that's an agenda on our stand-up meetings. So one thing we're looking at is the red clock. Any red clocks, we're going to try to ask questions to either the recruiter or the salesperson, just because it's right there. The only trick on that is from your business, maybe it's from client to client, like your expectations may change based on behavior. But yeah, if you find a happy medium, and even if you're just asking the question and addressing it, it still helps you move that process along. So
Yeah, going back to that point we were talking about earlier, of like making sure you understand your team and walking through, making sure they're capable of moving people through the process.
Right. The other great tool, aside from the conversations about the clock and how long they've been in a status, is up here in the upper right-hand corner. We can also look at jobs with submissions only, and we can also look with jobs that have no submissions. So this is great. Also, we don't have any right now in this instance that don't have any submissions, but that's a great tool as well, because you can easily see what jobs need to be jumped on right away. If there are jobs that have absolutely no submissions, you can easily track that as well.
Yeah, and then you want to show a card, like
Yep,
full
I want to
candidate
show the
card,
candidate
Tammy?
card. So on the
There you go.
candidate card, we can also configure what fields we want to be visible here. And again, any field that is in your candidate record can be on this card. And it can also be edited. The record can be edited right from here. So just same way I showed you on the job edit. If you need to change something, you can edit it right here without having to go into the candidate record. We can also see different fields from your job submission record. So here we can actually see the date the submission was added. So that's another great feature, to be able to see what date the submission was added. And also we can see the submission status, but any field that is on your job submission can also be added here. We have features.
And is there sorry, Tammy, any best practices on what you guys are showing, Wes?
yeah, so one thing I'll say is when it comes to customizing, it's pretty much however you want to set up your ribbons is it's doable. So they have 4 fields in this ribbon current setup, but you can do as many as I think 16. And it just creates a new line, makes the ribbon a little bit thicker. But overall, I will say, when you talk to both sides, like if you have a fulfillment team or whatever you're doing, or if you have a sales team, talking to both sides and saying, hey, what do you want to see on the ribbon? And then getting all of that in there, that's where it just saves a lot of time, because you don't have to click on anything. It's just displayed right there on the ribbon.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry for cutting you off, Tammy.
No, you're fine. So yeah, and the same way that we have lots of different functionality up here on the job ribbon, we have in the ellipsis here different things we can do here. We can, if your candidate is in an interview bucket, you can see the most recent interview date if there is one. You can also see, you can add a note right from here. So again, saving clicks from having to go into the candidate record, you can add a note right here. You can also change the candidate card color. Whoops. Oh. Sorry, we have a config issue, I think, going on that I just configured. But you can change the color of the card. And also you'll be able to see, let me see if I come in here and we have the cards color, any cards colored here. We set it to default to green, but we can go in and change that color as well for the card. Are you using the card colors too, Wes?
So we haven't come up with a way or a use case for the cards, just the ribbons so far.
Got it.
Okay, great.
And then, Tammy, you want to show a little bit of filterings and favorites real quick, and then we'll go to opportunity.
Absolutely.
We have about 3 minutes left there.
Okay, great. So in the filtering tool, we just come into the filters and we can configure which fields within all of these entities you want to be able to filter by. So as Rob was saying before, we can go in here. We can sort by the job ribbon color. We can sort by different statuses. If I only want to see the jobs that are in accepting candidates and maybe, or if I just want to see my placed jobs, I can go in and apply the filter. I can also filter by submission, by company again, and these are all configurable here. The other thing that I can do, and we talked about this earlier for stand-ups or even for one-on-ones, is filter down to a specific job owner or recruiter, and then save it as a favorite. So we have our favorites list here, and we can make the favorites public or private, and then we can share them with your team members. So if you make a configuration board, it will be here for other people to use as well and to look at. So if I wanted to just go into National Basketball Association, I can just hit that filter and it will take me right there. So it's very quick to sort of go one by one and click one favorite into the next if you're doing a stand-up or you're doing one-on-ones, just to go from one person to the next.
And Wes, that's how you're doing those stand-ups, like you said?
Absolutely. Yeah, and one-on-ones, same thing, filtering the job owner and saving those boards so you can go over issues. Again, it's right there. Like you can see lots of visual elements.
Yeah, I was gonna say one of the things that reminds me of is like you can get those new recruiters situated faster because they're not having to navigate all the way through Bullhorn. They just go to their Kanban board, hit the filter, go to their name, and now any job that they're assigned to or however you're set up in your business is they can get up to speed faster because there was a learning curve of navigating to like I would go through as the manager and save. I would like first thing I would do is I would sit down with them and show them how I would save their list views. But you do this, you could have them delivered to them in this case automatically because
Correct.
they're public. Yeah. All right. Let's look at opportunity board very quickly. I want to save a few minutes for any questions. We're
Yes.
coming up to
Yep.
about 40 minutes.
Yep, so we have our opportunities board here, and you can see that it looks the same with the breadcrumbs across the top, and these breadcrumbs and these columns actually follow your opportunities workflow. And within the opportunities workflow, you can see here if you have expected value filled in, it will automatically calculate the revenue that is in each one of these buckets. And the same way that we worked with the recruiter buckets is when you're going from stage to stage, you can just drag and drop it and into the next phase, and it will recalculate the revenue here on the top. You can also filter. So if I wanted to filter I wanted to just see maybe one company in particular and see the opportunities that I have for that one company, I can go ahead and filter by the company. I can also filter just by owners. So if I want to see who the owner, the salesperson is, I can do that also for quick one-on-ones and stand-up and sales meetings. And of course, we can also sort by expected close. We can also just filter by expected close. And it's a great tool to just visualize what you have going on here. And then of course we have our past the expected close date clock as well.
Yeah. Awesome. So this one's a little bit more straightforward, right? It's an opportunity board. You guys are going to track based on close date this quarter or close date this year, and you're going to be able to get again, it's a list in its current state and opportunities for Bullhorn. Obviously, you can configure the list to give you that information. But as you're going through it, and as a leader, you want to see what's overdue. And this board, Tammy, we maybe want to go in and like change the close date because there's lots of red on some of these. I know it's a demo account, but if I was a leader and I saw that red, I would have lots of questions. So anyway, Wes, anything in particular you're doing with the opportunity side? I know it's not like it's pretty straightforward for you guys, but anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a useful tool. I think from our business perspective, it highlights the opportunity of where we need to go and find new
Spend some
business.
time.
Yeah.
I love it. Anyway, all right. Well, go ahead, Cami. Sorry.
I wanted to say that I'm actually glad that glitch happened with the color coding of the cards, because while we're talking now, I'm gonna quickly config change and show you how fast it is to fix things like that. It's just a config issue, and then if you want me to, I can show it.
No, we revenue total for each stage in the recruiter board. It's a good question. Tammy, do you know so on the recruiter board, Stuart, can you show how much revenue potential each recruiter has based on stage? I don't think so at the moment, but can we?
Well, you could add an expected value into the job entity, like a field for expected value, and put it there, and then you can show that on the Kanban candidate card.
Yeah, I don't think we're doing the
It-
math though for each.
Yeah, it won't total it up on the top like it is on the opportunities board, though.
Is that what you're asking, Stuart? Yeah, is it? I think it is actually. Okay. Yeah, so you can show the value of each, but we don't. It's not like the opportunity board adds up. So I'm imagining it's not completely impossible to do the recruiter board, but just not something that we prioritize. Would that help you, Wes? Just out of curiosity, since you're on here.
Well, I'm just thinking about Tammy and I and the team have been talking about how eventually on the roadmap there will be a recruiter board. I think is what it was called. Essentially, I know she's busy doing that thing, but that's a great question. What Stuart's talking about. I see the value there, but I don't even remember what was your question.
So yeah, all right. Would it help benefit you if the recruiter so you're looking at a filter based on the recruiter submissions, right? And we know the expected margin, or would it be helpful if it added up so you could see on the board per recruiter what they're expected?
It
would be hard. It'd be hard for the all view because obviously it's different than each, so on the opportunity board you have stage value, right? Like we have this much in discovered, you have 100 grand in discovered, you have 250 grand in interviewing, you have negotiating, you have another 250. That's like one
Correct.
thing, but it'd be hard for each recruiter. But if you could somewhere put the full, yeah, we'd have to sort. I think it would be a UI issue based on where you'd put it for each recruiter, but I don't think it's impossible.
So yeah, I would say what would be valuable is what you were talking about in the beginning, is seeing it from a holistic standpoint. Individual recruiter, I mean, sure, but that holistic, what you're talking about, I could see.
Yeah, this is how much we have against this job in, and you could almost set it for two or three, hey, we only want to know if they're interviewing, negotiating, or place, what's our revenue count. But it's a good question, Stuart. I knew you'd ask good ones. By the way, thank you again for being on. Can't say that enough. Yeah, Lawson, it is a tool that's offered by Newbury. It's one of our add-ons for Bullhorn that we within the last 2 years deployed after looking at other CRMs and project management tools and seeing the value of Kanban. Any other questions? So we're on Q&A. We're exactly at time. I wanted to stop here, but if there are questions, we can go a few minutes over. I did reserve an hour, but happy to give everyone back 15 minutes so they can go do other human things before their next call, because I'm sure everyone is back to back to back to back. So if there's no questions, we can drop, but I'm going to give it to about 11:47, and then I will say goodbye. But in the meantime, as the questions are coming in, I do want to say a big thank you to Tammy. Thank you so much for jumping on.
My pleasure.
Aaron, thank you for managing the chat. And then also for generally backing me up on how I pronounce Kanban. By the way, Tammy, you're a Kanban person, right? You're a traditionalist?
I'm really hybrid. Internally, when I say it to myself, I say Kanban. But when I say it to other people, I try to say Kanban just because
it's the right way to say
so
it.
fancy.
I love it. And then Wes, thanks so much, man. We appreciate the insights and the the willingness to jump on and share. And obviously, if you guys, it's a problem that you guys felt, and we all know people do stand-ups. We all know people have lots of lists. It's probably, a problem that other people are experiencing. And for what we charge for it, it's really not a barrier to entry to get it into their platform. So
Yeah, no, it's made a world of difference for us. And just shout out to Tammy, whether it's email or looking at, it's called a validation sheet, but if you decide to go with the product, it's the response times, transparency, it's I don't have a lot to compare it to, but I'm pretty sure it's awesome. So thanks, Tammy.
yeah, she's creating an incredible experience for you guys, for all the people using any of our tools that are working with Tammy. So I know we're grateful for her. Tammy got a patience shout out today in our core values chat, by the way. So, you know, Aaron and I very rarely get those, but Tammy gets them every week, at least 5 to 10 times a week. So, and then Lawson, we'll get that out to you. We'll have the chat and we'll get you an email. So anyway, well, guys, thank you so much. We appreciate everybody. Tammy, Aaron, Katie K, who's on the background helping us out with the technicals. And then, of course, Wes, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Everyone who tuned in, even if you're from Scotland, Stuart, good seeing you, brother. All my people from Omaha and everywhere else, appreciate you guys. And remember, it's okay if you say Kanban or Kanban. No one's going to judge you. I promise. All right. Bye, guys.
Yeah.